Hello everyone, I'm Priya Hassan. I'm an assistant professor in physics at a university here in India in a place called Hyderabad. And what I put up here is a logo of Dr. Seuss, which is actually the kind of life teachers are living now. It's like you want to somehow, in spite of all the issues with virtual teaching, we have to like live with it and teach these kids somehow, right? So that's how we are managing. Uh, Now, what we started off is once the pandemic started, we realized that obviously it was important to get into. Sorry, is my camera coming on or no? Hello?
Well, we can see your screen perfectly, but the camera, I don't know.
Yeah, okay, I'll just try to get it on. I'll just get it on again. Yeah. Is it better now or has it come now? No, I think it's not there. Okay, no problem. So I can continue without seeing you. So once the pandemic started, we tried to start a few online courses for students. And one of the earlier one we did was an online astronomy course where for 6 days, we had introduction lectures on astronomy in the afternoons. This was 4:30 to 6 because by then schools had already started their schedules during the day. And, this was the one slot which was free, which we could use, which we used again later on. We decided that we should do some hands-on activities. And hence we did a school with physics, and it was physics at home, where what we tried to do, where we actually tried to do some physics experiments hands-on and showed that to people. So this was a lot of fun because we had to collect apparatus. Not everything was there at home, so you literally had to collect things from home and do your thing. And then came up the call from IIU Office for Astronomy for Development for COVID-related proposals. And we proposed a proposal called Astronomy from Archival Data, which included a bulk of students from India as well as all over the world, because this was to be online. And as long as it was English-speaking audience, it was fine to us. And so we proposed this and we got this project. I would like to appreciate the Office for Astronomy for Development that they reacted so fast to this, to the requirement of the day. And for example, these projects had to be submitted by the 15th of April. And 15th of May, and by 31st of May, the results were out. So, people could actually, start working as soon as possible. So by 31st May, we knew we were into this thing. So we kind of started our stuff from June itself, started doing the thing. So, so that's our proposal, that's the project. And when we advertised, we got about 848 responses. This is to date, which covers about 23 countries, which we could see that this is exactly what students want. There was such a good response from so many countries. And we even had, some teachers from Brazil who actually wrote to us saying that your program looks so good that we would like to have it as part of our university curriculum. So we actually gave them the curriculum, which they are trying to pass as a course with which students can actually get credits for this semester. So that was also a very encouraging thing. So we have a family team. That's my husband and me. And that's a picture from one of our old outreach things. We also do outreach as well as education. So we work as a team together. And that makes it good and easy and fun. So what was our modus operandi? Like Susanna mentioned, virtual teaching has been there for a while. But not all of us have been so deeply into it. We've been, and it's always been supported with offline teaching, right? So even if you put up some lectures online and tell students to see it, you know that you're going to meet them in class the following day, and then you could have some face-to-face interaction. So I think the problem with today's virtual teaching is that since there is no supporting offline teaching along with it, that's the biggest problem. If virtual teaching was just supplementing in the sense, like school kids, you could tell them, okay, go through the topic through Khan Academy and see if you understand or no. Then the student can come back to you and, you can work on it. But in this case, we were, made to understand that the teaching has to be done totally just with the virtual platform without any face-to-face meeting. And I think that's the biggest, the challenge in it. So the first thing, we started off with designing our website. I urge you all to have a look at our website. And I think now we're becoming more of website designers than astronomers in the sense of setting it up and maintaining, because getting somebody to pay somebody to actually do your maintenance and designing is very expensive. So we just got somebody to make the site for us, but now we are maintaining it ourselves. The other important aspect is social media. It's very important to communicate with the students. So obviously they can individually send you emails, but we are also using Facebook as well as Telegram, and some of them even do call up. And then the other thing you need is the feedback from the students. So I think it's almost essential that for every session or every alternate session, there is some kind of homework or some kind of quizzes from the students, so that you get a feedback as to what is the what is the level at which you're pitching things, and are students comfortable with it or no. So we basically use Google Forms for the quizzes, so that the student does the quiz and immediately sees his or her marks, so he or she knows how, where do they stand in terms of a particular topic. We also took polls because we've already more than a month into this project of ours. So we had sessions on Python and AstroPy and TopCat and essentials of astronomy, etc. And therefore, we took polls from students to actually check up, whether they felt the content was to the level they would like it, or would they like it to be diluted or stepped up or whatever. We also try to make our thing as inclusive as possible. So we got a variety of speakers to speak in our thing. We're going to have many more. I've been in touch with Mark also about getting people from CDS also speaking to us. So we actually had Mark Taylor, who had a session on TopCat. We had Luisa Rebull, who had a session on IPAC IRSA database. And we've been trying our best to get the students in touch with, the people who are really at the helm of affairs, because in their particular fields, because the students can actually get access to the best because of the online platform that we have. And that's what, so I urge you to have a look at our website, and we've got a whole bunch of other speakers. We're also encouraging participants to speak. So for example, next Sunday, we have a participant who will be speaking on his use of robotic telescopes. So he actually used robotic telescopes to get some data, which he presented in the meeting of the Astronomical Society of India, which was held in February, just before the shutdown. And so that's it. So this is a part of the web page where we actually have a page called the resources, and which you can see that we actually we record all our sessions, because we have students from 23 different countries. So obviously time zones don't agree. I forgot to mention, okay, I'll talk about that in the next one, that our sessions are on Saturdays, Sundays in the morning from 10 to 11:30. We had to choose this session because most of these students have already started their classes in their respective colleges and universities, which run Monday to Friday. And as well as us, we also teach at the university. So we also have our regular classes from Monday to Friday. So these sessions are on Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 11:30 in the morning. So if a student misses it, he or she can always see the material again. So it's all up on YouTube. So we have the session section where we actually show the students links to all the videos. There's reading material that they could read and download. There are homework and quizzes for every topic as they go through it. There's a list of software with links of the software they need to install to study. The syllabus has been done specially for the Brazilian case, but it could be taken up by others if they would like to keep that as part of their course for this semester. And then there are polls. We have polls on various topics to actually check out what do the students think about what we are doing. And now I come to the main part, is the caveats, right? So like I said, the first important thing is planning events. Like we fixed up Saturday, Sundays, we thought that was the best option so that it doesn't clash with regular classes for the students as well as for us. And like I mentioned earlier, the recordings are available, so students can later join, attend at their convenience. And they can always contact the speakers either through YouTube or through Facebook or Telegram or emails, and clear their doubts if they have it. Since we have a good chunk of students who are Spanish speaking, we were actually requested by them to enable subtitles. So I don't know exactly how these kids do it, but apparently they can manage to get the subtitles, the automated ones done in Spanish. So that's what they have been doing. Obviously, the number I showed you was very good, 848. but obviously not all those who register attend. So therefore, it's important for us also to try to keep track of who is attending and who's not attending, which is a slightly difficult job. And but we get our feedback through the quizzes, through the polls, etc. We kind of know what's the approximate number which is attending, which is obviously not 848. We are much lesser than that. Like I mentioned, we have a variety of speakers, research scholars, faculty, participants. And the good part is that a lot of resource-based persons have been very happy to share their resources. For example, Mark Taylor himself, he shared a lot, he agreed to get up at 4:30 in the morning to have our session, which was an absurd time for him, but he insisted. And there's a lot of material which, for example, even Luisa Ruibul has shared with the students, which they can use and which will help them in their work. A little problem is about the level. How do we actually pitch it? So we kind of slightly oscillate in the level. We also had preparatory sessions. For example, for the TopCat class, before Mark Taylor did it, we actually had 2 sessions where we prepared the students for it, so that before they met Mark Taylor, they already had installed TopCat and they'd already done some level of analysis before they met him. Otherwise, the TopCat session would have just been an exercise in installing TopCat, right? Which is not of much sense. Similarly, even with the Luisa event, which we had, before the students had the event, we had a preparatory event where we actually showed them some things so that they had a background before they actually met her. Like mentioned earlier, yes, there are issues for all these students as well as us with network, power, all these things, but that's just something we've got to live with, not something that we can solve. So the platform we are using is Zoom, but the $15 package works only for 100 participants. And therefore, what we do is we have Zoom. We suggest the students to first try the Zoom platform, and then if the Zoom room is full, then the students come onto YouTube. And here I've just got a picture trying to show you for the kind. This is the channel I've made, which is the YouTube channel I've made for this thing. And we have a good number of views, which you can see, which for all the videos that we post. And I've just put some numbers over here. These are the Zoom sessions. So what we've done is we've even recorded individual lectures, which are of a smaller size, say 15 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, so that these are smaller videos, easier for people to download, right? The Zoom sessions are generally 1.5 hours, and therefore they could be a little bit more tougher for students to download. So we had the Zoom sessions as well as the lectures, but you can see the first Zoom session, we had more than 1,000 people. Where's the second one I got? Okay, there's a third one, 481. Okay, this is sorted in terms of views. So you can see that the views are about 400, 300, 200, something like that. And let's see how it progresses. So this is the last weekend what we had a session on AstroPi. And so we've actually made a playlist on our YouTube channel, which has at present 24 videos because we just started. But since we are doing this, it's going to be for the whole 6-month period. So you will have a good number of sessions, which is going to be running on Saturday, Sundays. At present, all our sessions are booked, and we think we're going to do all of them. Let's see how it progresses. And please have a look at our website. It's called shrishtiastro.com. And like you see over here, I've mentioned that students are told that they can join at any point of time. There's no problem. They can register and join at any time, and they can cover up on the missed sessions which they missed by watching the videos and seeing the other stuff which is there on the website. And I'll wind up with this. So I look forward to contributions from all of you all, from the community, because this is a strange situation. We've never gone through such a situation. But now that we do have such a situation, the best is just to take advantage of it. And if nothing, this is just giving you a very good repository of stuff which students can always use even after the pandemic, but to start getting into data analysis in astronomy. Yeah. So thanks. I'll wind up with that.